What are some of your highlights as far as your professional career as a
Wow.
musician?
That's a very hard question because even though I remember a few, you always forget. Like I was just talking to Nelson Gonzalez, and they just sent me a clip of a video that we did in 1977 for Saturday Night Live that I have forgotten all about it. And a lot of the stuff like that. But really, highlights in my life, the first time we went to Russia, that was before they were our friends. Before Billy Joel, I went there with Santana. That was a real highlight because it was a private plane and a whole bunch of groups went there, and I have to remember how the university students used to cry when they saw a live band from the United States there. So I have to remember that. And when I went back to Cuba in 1979 with the Funny All Stars, that's another highlight. Going back to Cuba after being here so many years and knowing some of the musicians that are not around anymore, they passed away. That was another highlight. And things like that. There's still a whole bunch of them,
I'm
but
sure.
those come to my mind.
Okay. Um, what would you, what advice would you give to aspiring young musicians who want to play this music?
This particular music, you mean Latin music?
Yes.
Wow. It's very hard to do. Sometimes I feel like I don't have the answer. Like for example, where I live outside in the East Bay of San Francisco, and I teach in a school of guitar and bass and ukulele and banjo and that. And a conga drum or a timbal or a bongo where I live is unheard of because the young kids, I'm talking about the type of kids are there, the mostly uh, Anglos or Chinese or whatever, not and the Latino descendants of the Mexicans. They're not interested. A lot of them are not interested in this music, but they listen to banda and that. So it's very hard. So I decided anyway to be there and to be around the kids and to see what they like, and little by little to make them understand that percussion is not foreign, that is being used on commercials, on movie, on soundtracks, and a lot of the stuff, even on ensembles of piano and bass, or even on hip hop, resembles clave and resembles a lot of the stuff is in clave. And you would say, how could you play that music? Okay, most of the time I play the cajon or conga, and they have a drummer playing the kun pa and I'm playing Mozambique, I'm playing pilon, I'm playing songo, and I go out and I experiment all those rhythms because they could all be incorporated. So like that, I don't get bored, and I'm practicing my conga shot.
That's right. Um, are there any younger musicians that are currently playing our music that you approve or
Wow,
like the way they play?
that's a really, really, really complicated question. Things have evolved in a way that everybody is very interested in learning technique, not only in percussion, in any instrument. And sometimes, or most of the times, they confuse the extra technique of for like this is how good I play. And I think it's a balance between technique and sabor and flavor. But we can't forget that, man, Chapotin used to play, Euro trumpet play one note, and you know,
It said more
and it said more than a
than
thousand notes, right?
exactly.
The
Yes.
old charangas for the flutes, you know, there was a flute player called Joseito Valdez. They used to call him the flute is with the, with one note, and he used to take arcaño and with one note octave here, there, put it here, kick his butt. And you know, so I try to preserve some of that. Doesn't mean that there are times that you have to do something else because of the times and that. And I always, since I started playing, I saw the styles in New York. In Cuba was very little timbal players, only the charanga players. So the style wasn't there. So actually that style, if you ask me, developed in New York and went back to Cuba. And if I am humble enough to say I had something to do with that
I
style.
believe that. Of course, yes.
Because I didn't play Puente, I didn't play Willy Bobo. My style was a little different. Yeah.
Uh, so, no names of anybody in particular.
Oh, okay. I forgot the question. Yeah, yeah. There's plenty of players. I know I'm gonna forget. You know, how new could do they have to be? Because some of the new guys are not new anymore, and there's some newer guys just coming. There's always new guys.
The new guys that are not new anymore.
The new guys that are not good anymore. I have to say Jimmy Delgado is one of them that preserves some of the stuff and that. There's a few in Puerto Rico. I like the way Tito De Gracia plays. Uh, of course, let me see who else. There's I don't know how old they could be because there's not. There's a whole bunch of players out there, you know, with different styles and that, you know. I have to mention which one of the kids that used to come and see us play, Rafi Rizarri, you know, all those guys. I know I'm forgetting people, but
That's okay. All right.
yeah.
Um,
Well, I listened to the radio in those days. We had no TV, so it was hard for me to know who was playing and what were their names because there was no credit in the records back then. Probably singles or 78s. But there was certain groups that influenced me. One of the groups was Sonora Matancera, which my uncle, that happened to be a doctor, a urologist. He passed away already. He was also a tres player and a bongo player on his spare time, which was very unusual. He told me to listen to Sonora and listen to Manteca. At the time was the timbalito player. And timbalitos were played with Sonora as bongos, but with sticks. That's an instrument that hasn't been developed. You know, a lot of people haven't talked much about the timbalitos. Tito used to use them as a solo instrument, but they were used in Sonora as an accompany instrument. So that's one of the first groups that I heard. Also the danzones with all orchestras like Antonio Maria Romeo, Orquesta Almendra, Cheo Belén Puy, very old type danzones. That was my first influence in music. Like I was talking to somebody that happens to be a teacher, a vocal teacher, and I told him that my father was an opera singer. So the first 5 years of my life, all I heard was classical music in my house. So the beginning was like he bought me a guitar, a little guitar that he had made, and uh, I started learning how to play the guitar. But I didn't like classical music, so I turned it around, and that was my first encounter with a bongo. I started playing the wood like if it was the low and the high of the bongo. I'm trying to listen to the records. There was no teachers. There was no video that what hand does what. So that was the beginning of everything.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Camagüey, Cuba. I was born in Camagüey, Cuba.
And how old were you when you first came to the U.S.?
Until I was 12, and I came to New York at the age of 12. Yeah.
And where did you live in New York?
I always lived in my childhood in the West Side, West 69, West 70th Street, and Central Park, West 10, until I left. That happened to be the Donald Trump building now. But the house that I used to live is still there. It's still there. It's an old house, and yeah, still there.
Who were some of the first bands that you played with?
Wow. Actually, every time they ask that question, I miss something. Uh, Probably wasn't a band. I started with trios. I actually started, it was the era in New York of Trio San Juan and Trio Los Panchos and that, and they added a timbal, and I used to do trio work in clubs, Puerto Rican clubs and stuff. That's how I started. Playing even Jibaro music with guys like Nieves Quintero, Joe Motoro, a whole bunch of people that used to be in the studio recording all the time. So the first actual group was a little group in New Jersey that belonged to a saxophone player, alto player, that I don't remember his name. He was part of the Perez Prado Orchestra. And he came to the United States and formed a group called the Cuban Rhythm Boys. And guess who the conga player was there and how long I know this guy? Felo Barrio, the singer with Broadway. So we started together there in that group. Don't forget to check out Salsa Legends and Masters Academy to learn about our music. Don't forget to check out Salsa Legends and Masters to learn about our music.